Hello there, rock and roll children, and welcome to Physical Format Rock and Roll. I'm Gary. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it. So, over the weekend, I got to see both my sons, and they both kind of reminded me of a couple of things that I haven't done for a while on the channel that maybe I've gotten away from and that I should do. And they're both pretty smart young men. And I said, you're right. So one of the first things I'm going to do is have an album fight. So this is where I pick a couple of albums that have to be somewhat similar in nature somehow. They have to have something in common. Normally I like to pick two albums from the same band, but occasionally it might be two different bands. Anywho, so today I picked a band that, I hadn't heard of these guys for a long time. Never heard anybody talk to them until I got into the vinyl community and I noticed their name would be popping up more. And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember these guys. I've got some of their stuff. And that's April Wine out of Canada. April Wine kind of was one of those bands that had their main success in the late 70s, early 80s. They kind of had a peak there, at least in America, of popularity. And they definitely had that sound of that era, right? They've got the Gibson Les Pauls mostly going through Marshall amps, that kind of simple rock and roll sound. It's definitely a time capsule, those albums, but they're really good. I mean, they have some cheesy moments during this time. Some of those lyrics could have been maybe a little more well thought out, but they were a product of the time, and they still had a lot of really good music. They are definitely a underappreciated band in a way because you don't hear them talked about as much, like I said, out in mainstream world or whatever, but here in the vinyl community, I do hear them mentioned more. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to pick a couple of their albums and have them go against each other. First one I'm going to go with, from 1979, the classic Harder, Faster. This album was their 8th studio album, and this band started, well, I think they actually started in the very late 60s, but they started putting out albums in the early 70s, and they reached this point here. Their music was definitely a little more harder edged as they's going along. This is a fairly heavy rock album for its time. It's got a lot of good songs on here. First off, it starts off with the song, I Like to Rock, I Like to Rock, which basically sounds like a song that Sammy Hagar wished that he did write. I mean, it's that type of song. And it goes from that into Say Hello, which almost sounds like something the Cars could have done. They definitely have good rock sound on this album, but there are times on this and the next one I'm going to talk about where they almost have like a bit of a new wave influence on them. They were definitely picking up on some of the things that were going on around them at the time, and they incorporated it into their music. And it shows up. Of course, now you talk about a time capsule. Now check out that that picture on the back. Yeah. Is that 1979? Or actually, that looks more like 1976 to me. But anyway, yeah, you got the super tight pants, the open shirts, just definitely a time capsule picture there. Anyway, so here's the track listing on this one. I Like to Rock, Say Hello, Ladies Man, Babes in Arms, Better Do It Well, Before the Dawn, Tonight, which is kind of a almost almost has like a Jackson Brown kind of feeling to me, like of that time period, Jackson Brown. You know, like she's got to be somebody's baby, that time period. So tonight, and they do a very cool remake of 21st Century Schizoid Man from King Crimson. So, like I said, they have some different influences in here, and they do their own prog metal tribute. It's not too much on the prog side, but yet, you know, it does go on for quite a while, and it's a pretty darn good remake. It's a rockin' version of it, and I love their version of that. If you have not heard that, definitely pick it out there. There's the track listing on there that I just talked about. Another really good song on here is Before the Dawn. It's just one of those great songs that starts out slow and it builds up and it rocks. Nothing too overcomplicated about it, but just a good rocking song to listen to. So the band at this time was Miles Goodwin, who is the guy, he's still with them today. He's the only one left. Had Brian Greenway, Miles Goodwin on vocals and guitar, Brian Greenway on vocals and guitar, Gary Muffett on guitar. So there's 3 guitars going on in here. Steve Lang on bass and Jerry Mercer on drums, who's pretty good. That's something else I really like about this album is the way it sounds. The bass drum on this, when you listen to it, don't have anything else going on around you, and you put on your stereo and it just really pops. It just really has a nice, really deep, good sound to it. I like very, very well recorded. Next up, from 1981, we have The Nature of the Beast. Now this was their commercial peak. They reached 24 on the Billboard charts for the US. So this was the highest that they ever did here in America. And that was largely because of a couple songs on here. First, Sign of the Gypsy Queen, which is one of their best songs. That's a great song. That's where you get to hear those guitars meshing together so well, like in a Wishbone Ash type of thing. And then, of course, the ballad, Just Between You and Me, which is a really good ballad. You know, come on. Not everybody likes ballads, but I don't know how you can not like that one. And then to go along with it, you had other rocking songs, and I think this one even has a little more new wave-ish touches to it at times. You have All Over Town, Telling Me Lies, Wanna Rock, Caught in the Crossfire, Future Tense, Big City Girls, Crash and Burn, that's a good one. Crash and Burn's a good one. Bad Boys, and One More Time. Another solid album. This was a back-to-back 1-2 punch for these guys. They got very popular. I remember, being in school as a kid and seeing some people wearing T-shirts of this band, not really knowing who they were too much yet at the time. Kind of had to go back and learn. But another solid album. Once again, some of it is a little dated lyric-wise. Some of the lyrics are pretty corny. But for the most part, they work. You just enjoy it. These are just fun albums is what they are. Just fun rockin' albums, okay? This isn't anything you're going to put too much thought in when you're listening to it. You just enjoy it. You just rock out. You just have a beer and have some fun. That's what April Wine is. So, they got to go against each other, right? Somebody's got to win. It's album fight. What's it going to be? What do you guys think? I tell you what, to me, these albums are so closely matched, probably depending on my mood at the time. But I have to give it to Harder, Faster, just because I think it's more solid throughout the album. This, might have a clunker or two, nothing too major, but I just think this is really solid. I Like to Rock, Say Hello, 21st Century Schizoid Man, and Before the Dawn are just such strong songs that if there is any other weaknesses on this album, those songs alone carry it over. There's some diversity in this album that really works, and I'm not taking anything away from this because I love this. The Nature of the Beast, great album. I just think I like this one a little bit more, just a little more solid from start to finish. So, it's a technical decision. Okay, this is not a knockout by any sense of the imagination. I recommend picking them up both, but if you want to pick up one first, I would go to this one. Harder Faster is your winner today for the April Wine album fight. I'm curious what some of you people out there think. Do you give a shit about April Wine or not? Which of these albums would you pick? Or is there another April Wine album, the First Glance, whatever, that's your favorite one? I'm curious to hear it. I'm Gary. This is Physical Format Rock and Roll. Thank you so much for tuning in. I greatly appreciate it. Remember, I am on Twitter and Facebook if you want to contact me there. Until the next time, my friends, I will see you down the road.